You're listening to the Business for Good podcast, the show where you'll hear inspirational stories about companies making money by solving some of the world's most pressing problems. I'm your host, Paul Shapiro, and I'm glad you've joined us. Greetings, friend, and welcome to episode 176 of the Business for Good podcast. If you've been listening to this show for some time, you know that I am a fungi fanatic, and I have often wondered why we don't see more efforts to commercialize plastic-eating fungi to do something about all of the plastic waste that we are generating. Well, no longer will I wonder, and no longer will I lament that no one is doing this, since this show's guest is now doing it. If you've ever changed a diaper, you might have wondered what happens to it after it goes into the trash. The answer, unfortunately, is that it will sit in a landfill for hundreds of years, certainly longer than the baby who briefly wore it will live. In fact, every diaper that you wore when you were a baby is still sitting around, at best in a landfill or perhaps even in the ocean. And did you know that the average American baby goes through 6,000 diapers before learning to use a toilet? But what if fungi could change all of that? In this episode, I sit down with serial entrepreneur Miki Agrawal, the founder of Thinx, yes, the period underwear company, Tushy, yes, the bidet company, and now HIRO Technologies, a company using plastic-eating fungi to help disposable diapers return to the earth. Miki, who some have dubbed the queen of pee, poop, and periods, or maybe I think they should just shorten it to the queen of secretions, shares how an opportune moment with her toddler and a children's book about fungi inspired her to launch HIRO. Her company's first product, HIRO Diapers, that's HIRO Diapers, uses a packet of dormant culinary-grade fungi that awaken when exposed to moisture and begin breaking down the diaper's plastic components, dramatically reducing its landfill lifespan from centuries to under a single year, after which it simply becomes dirt. We talk about everything from the science of fungal degradation to the challenges of biotech entrepreneurship, from raising millions for an unconventional idea to why she believes reconnecting with nature is the ultimate form of innovation. Whether you are a parent, a sustainability enthusiast, or just fascinated by the intersection of biology and business, this conversation will make you rethink what waste really means. Miki, welcome to the Business for Good podcast.
Thank you. It's happy to be here, Paul, with you.
I am told that you are described, sometimes even self-described, as the queen of all things pee, poop, and periods. Why?
Well, I've been over the last, almost 2 decades now in that space, like really looking at personal hygiene space and how we can innovate in it and provide, products that are better for people and better for the planet. And so my first kind of big project was the first period-proof underwear that has helped millions of women period better by just providing an underwear that's leak-proof, absorbent, and just helps a woman not have to go through so many pads, tampons that are bleached, full of process, and end up in landfills for hundreds of years. And so as a result, we've helped divert hundreds of millions of tampons, pads, applicators from landfills. And so, my whole mission statement is elevating people on the planet. So then I started Tushy, the bidet company that I still own, and it's literally cleaning the butts of the American people, and including yours, Paul.
Yes, that is true. I will note that my wife and I are customers of yours.
That's right. And as a result, we've helped also save over 10 million trees from getting flushed down the toilet. We have funded resoiling and reforestry projects all over South America. We have funded the build out of toilets for over 60,000 families in India. We really care about this, again, this co-elevation of people and planet. And then my most recent project, which is one of the things that you and I share deep, stoke on, is fungi. And how do we harness fungi to solve some of the greatest world challenges? I mean, fungi have been here for, billions of years, one of the first beings on Earth, and has been breaking down the carbon backbone of trees for hundreds of millions of years. And turns out the carbon backbone of plastic is very similar to the carbon backbone of trees, because plastic comes from fossil fuels. Fossil fuels come from dead trees and animals. Therefore, if fungi can break down trees, they can also break down plastic. And so we spent the last 4.5 years really bringing the oceans of microremediation PhDs, chemistry PhDs, biology PhDs, all the top of the pops within the space of microremediation, and top diaper engineers from P&G. And we created the first product under HIRO, which is the name of our company. We named that for my son, who inspired the idea. And the first product is a baby diaper, that's the first and only unbleached diaper. And it comes with these little fungi pouches that you drop in before you dispose of the diaper. As you change a soiled diaper off the baby, you drop this little pouch and you close it, you throw it in the trash. In a couple of weeks, the fungi will wake up, fertilized by the baby's poop or pee, and then will start to grow. And our vision is for it to be landfill biodegradable in under 12 months, instead of 400 to 500 years that the diaper takes to break down. And the reason why we chose diapers, because it's the number one household plastic waste item and the number 3 waste item in a landfill. I'll stop right there. But that's why.
Okay, so you have done a number of cool things for all types of personal hygiene. What, Miki, was the seed, or maybe I should say, what was the spore of this? And I'll note that your use of the term deep stoke was the first time I've ever heard stoke used that way. But I do have deep stoke when it comes to all things fungi. And we'll even note, for keen listeners of this show, you'll note that in past episodes, numerous times, I have wondered, why is it that we know that there is plastic eating fungi, and we hear all the time about academics all over the world using it to break down fungi, or using fungi to break down plastics in labs, but there are no commercially endeavored companies that are actually doing this. And so I was so stoked to use the term about what you're doing at HIRO, that I'm really excited to be talking with you about this. But what was the spore of the idea for you, Miki? Like, you had already had success in these other realms, right? Most people who start companies, their companies fail and they don't go on to do other endeavors in the entrepreneurial world. You have been a serial entrepreneur, starting multiple companies now that have done well. Why do this? Like, what happened that you thought, oh yeah, actually, I think I want to make diapers?
that can return to the earth with fungi. I mean, I had a kid, and in having a kid, I was going through 20 diapers a day, and I was just like, holy cow. Like, I looked it up, and
or more like, holy crap. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. and I discovered that every single baby goes through up to 6,000 diapers that take 400 to 500 years to break down. And like I said, diapers, the number one household plastic waste item, number 3 waste item in a landfill. The very first disposable diaper is still in a landfill somewhere, which means all of your diapers are in a landfill. Everyone listening, all of your diapers are still in a landfill somewhere. And it's crazy. And the number of diapers, you can visualize it, that end up in a landfill every single year globally could circle the earth 1,500 times. And every year, like, that's how many diapers that end up in landfills. It's just a crazy number. And it's one of the, again, one of the big landfill percentages is for plastic waste is diapers. And so we started with diapers, and how the spark of the idea came was actually the reason why I named it HIRO, HIRO, was named after my son, HIRO, who inspired the idea. So the idea basically started when I started taking Fridays, as I call thinking days, where I don't take any calls or meetings on Fridays. I kind of use them as a day to allow for creative ideas to download and just read, and not just be in reactive mode to like emails and calls and meetings, and just have a full day. It's not a day off. It's a day of receptivity to the universe, to nature, to the fungi, and to allow for ideas to come through. And on a particular Friday, I was staring at the window, looking at a tree, and I was just like, oh my God, wait a minute. Breast milk is considered liquid gold because it's so nutrient rich. Then therefore baby poop must be fertilizer gold. And I was just like, and right now we're wrapping billions of pounds of this mama juju fed fertilizer in plastic and throwing it in the trash and not harnessing it for good. Meanwhile, we're using cow poop and pig poop to fertilize our own food. And yet we're not using our own baby's golden poop to fertilize anything or to help with anything. And I was like, wait, if the baby poops in the diaper, could the baby poop help fertilize something to grow and eat the diaper, potentially? And I didn't know what the answer was. So I was like, what could break down plastic fertilized by baby poop? When I was asking myself what could break down plastic, my son, HIRO, comes running into my room at 2 years old, points to a book in my nightstand while saying Pachamama, which means Mother Earth. And I look and I pull out this book and I open it, and it says, certain fungi can break down plastic.
Wow, a children's book.
Yes, literally. As I was like, what could break down plastic? My son, HIRO, comes running into my room, points to a book, and it says fungi can break down plastic. It was like the most divine
Wow.
universe, nature winking at us, moment where it was a divine intervention moment that you just can't make up. And I was just like, oh my God, duh, fungi. I forgot. It was 2019 back then. And, a few articles had come out, but it wasn't like a whole thing like it is today as much as it was back then, or it wasn't back then. Yeah, Yale researchers discovered fungi growing in landfills, and I'd read some of those studies. But then I got when my son pointed to the book, and I got this eureka moment, I just dove deep into fungi and discovered, all the different, there's been papers over 20 years about fungi that can break down plastic, but no one had really taken it out of a lab into the real use case, into the real world, like you'd said. And so from there is when, I really put together the Ocean's 11 team of PhDs in like micromediation, mycology, biology, chemistry, like all these top people. Plus I brought in a diaper engineer from P&G, and we created, like I said, the first diaper that's like unbleached and really soft. And we partnered with local cotton farmers. It's the only one that doesn't have like white, which is bleach. You don't have your baby sitting in bleach. And it comes with these little pouches. And inside you can see kind of like the sleeping fungi on the inside that will wake up and grow once it gets to a landfill. And this is our 1.0. Our next iterations are going to be better and better and better and better. And this is with the first commercial version ever in history, which is really cool.
And so the packet that comes with the little fungi, do you put that in before the baby has used the diaper or after?
No, after. So you're taking off the soiled diaper, you take the soiled diaper off the baby, and you just drop the whole pouch in, whether it's a pure or poopy diaper. You just take the whole pouch, you don't open it, you just throw the whole thing in, you close it, and you throw it in the trash. That's
it. And the fungi are happy.
Yes, it just needs moisture and surface area.
Okay, because they're really consuming the plastic, okay.
And ours are the best because we use 50% less plastic, so it has lots of wood pulp and cotton in it, which the fungi prefer, and then it'll start to break the rest of it down. So it has less plastic. Our diapers have 50% less plastic, and the fungi prefer to eat the more organic stuff, which is why we didn't bleach it either, because fungi don't want bleach either. No one wants bleach, it turns out, and so. We are, again, partnering with them, and they're culinary grade, non-toxic. They're safer than the diaper itself. People are like, are they safe? They're safe. They're culinary grade. It's like in our bodies, we have a microbiome in addition to a microbiome, you know that. So like, as you know, in the world of myco, there's like shiitake, reishi, chaga. There's like all the types of delicious, beneficial fungi for humans. This is one of those. This is a beneficial fungi. That's really, really good. That's not non-toxic.
Yeah, cool. So let me just break down a few things here. So first, it was the first time I've ever heard the term diaper engineer. So there's a diaper engineer from Procter & Gamble. I'd love to know what he or she studied in their life to become a diaper engineer. Second, you mentioned a microbiome, and I'm glad you specified that you're not mispronouncing a microbiome, which is just all of the microbial life. There's literally a mycobiome, a fungi biome. Both in and on us at all times. Like we're breathing in every time we inhale, we're breathing in fungi. Every time we, scratch your skin, you're scratching fungi off of you. And in your intestines, you've got your own mycobiome, which is very important and critical to your own life. And so fungi, there are some of them who are quite bad for us, but we would die without them. And so it's a particularly helpful kingdom that is far older than we are. For sure, as Homo sapiens. Now, let me ask you, Miki, because you talked about bringing like Ocean's 11 team, you got the diaper engineers from Procter & Gamble. How are you funding all this? Had you raised capital at this point? Like you were bringing in, I presume people don't leave P&G to work for equity only, right? So how are you actually paying all these people to develop the first myco diaper?
Yeah. I raised money from friends and investors who had invested in my previous two companies, and all of my friends who want to invest in this project because they really believe in what we're doing, and they really believe in the cause, and they believe in me, and I've built two 9-figure businesses, and, they feel safe with the capital. Like the first time they're like, oh, did she get lucky? And then, I built a second one, and now they're like, okay, I'm in. And they let the idea works,
Yeah, I always think about the role that luck plays because, as I mentioned earlier, nearly all startups fail. And so when somebody succeeds, it may be because they did a great job, but it also may just be that things went their way that were not connected to
Exactly.
something that they did. But when you have a serial entrepreneur who's successful more than once, you start thinking, well, it's like if Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl with the Patriots, then he goes to the Bucks and he wins there also. You think, well, maybe it's Brady. Maybe it's Brady. Maybe it's not just the weather.
I'm not saying it's me. I'm saying it's like timing. There's luck. There's team. Of course, like I feel like I'm good at attracting a good team, really strong team, creative team, and they're all Swiss Army knives. I call them Swiss Army. Like they're able to do many different pieces. So it's not like you have to hire each person to do one task. Like we're able to really diversify with fewer people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was the hardest one because it's biotech. It's definitely not just consumer product. It's definitely a whole separate thing. So I had to raise the most money for this project.
Yeah, this is like one of the more interesting things that I think is people think about fungi. They think it's like just like a natural like warehouse where you're just growing mushrooms in trays of fertilizer. And, it is oftentimes quite different from that, right? Like fungi is a very broad kingdom. And we're talking generally about deep biotech using bioreactors and so on. Which has a very high capex, high capex. So the amount of money you need is, as you mentioned, is pretty extraordinary. But I noticed that you did a Kickstarter, Miki, and you were trying to raise like 30K. You end up raising 50K. Frankly, it's cool that you exceeded your goal, but it seems like not that much money.
No, I know we've raised over $7 million to date. That's really for community. That was to build the community and people just to know it and to start to like just support. And we barely put any time into it. It was just more like making a video, having some community learn about it, having like several hundred people like support. So now we have a starting point. Like all my businesses have had a Kickstarter. My first one I did $60,000 on Kickstarter. They all kind of start. I just kind of tuned into that sharing of a story, building the community, and then that's how it spreads the mycelial network.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So how long did it take for Ocean's 11 team to come up with this, right? So you talked about raising 4.5 years, right? So you had a 4.5 year period of R&D where it's totally pre-revenue, which I imagine must have been for somebody like you who's accustomed to just selling CPG products that you're getting produced in some factory somewhere, a very different experience, right? So what was that like spending 4.5 years watching these really smart people, presumably struggling to create this first product?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both Thinx and Tushy. I mean, Thinx, it took me 4 years to develop the underwear. Tushy also took a while to really get the bidet product right. It doesn't seem like it would, but we do have the best bidet attachment in the world right now, no question. And it did take years to get it right. It just always takes years. And so, while I'm a CPG person, this one I was the most like fish out of water. I'm literally like, thanks to Chat GPT, like anytime the scientists talk, I'm like putting it in chat, talk to me like a 12-year-old, like, like, oh, can you please translate what they're saying to a 12-year-old? And so this way I can understand a lot of the terms that they're saying. But I've learned a lot over the last 4.5 years around fungi, the fungal kingdom, the process to make it, like how we're tuning into scaling the production, which is why it's so fascinating that you and I are meeting right in this moment. This is how the goddess works in such mysterious ways, because we're in this like process right now of like, okay, like we need to tune into scaling our fungi, and we need that strategy on how to do that. We have our first micro refinery, our mini version in Austin, which I'm happy to bring you to, and you can see it and see our production. But it's like very like early days vibes, and so it's a very early days wet warehouse style. And so it'll be really nice for you to come to us, and then for us to come to you and be like, wow.
I'll tell you, the first iteration of the Better Meat Co. We were in a mechanic's garage, and we are growing a mycelium inside of like beer kegs, and we were going to Walmart and buying 4-pound bags of sugar and dumping them in, and we had a handheld drill that we used to mix the sugar up in the tank. And it was like,
how long have you used this?
I started the company in 2018, and so that's what we were doing for like until in 2019 we ended up moving into the facility that we're in now, which is a 13,000 square foot facility that built into an actual like fermentation facility with real fermentation equipment.
So you
but at first,
that already had fermentation equipment.
Oh, no, not at all. It was actually a bounce house for children. So it was we needed tall ceilings, and this bounce house, sadly for them, they went out of business, and so they took all their. I'm from the East Coast, so we call them moon bounces. I think people in other parts of the country call them like bounce castles or bounce houses.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that business went out. They went under. They took all their moon bounces out, and we moved in, and then we built.
How did you fund it?
We had raised the same way that you did, from friends, family, and fools. So we were basically growing fungi and growing a network of people who were really interested in what we were doing. And at that time, we raised, it was like just under $10 million in a seed round, or what I called a spore round. And at that time, that was enough to get us to build our own factory. And since then, we've raised about 4 times that much to really grow and do what we need to do. But even that,
did you guys see traction? Like, or as you raised the money, you were like, okay, in order for us to get to this number revenue wise, we have to scale our production to get here. So investors, right?
Yeah, a lot of it had to do with technology milestones. And so it was about patents, proving that customers liked it, demonstrating that the tech worked as we scaled it up, right? This is like a real valley of death where people can do things in the lab, but can't actually make it work at a bigger scale. And so that was I think a big part of it for us, for sure. But I don't mind talking about my own company, but I'm far more interested in yours because of how cool and novel what you're doing is, Miki. And I'd love to talk more about what we're doing some other time. But I do like, I wanted to ask you about the technology specifically, because I'm thinking like you spray, or you sprinkle rather, the fungi onto the diaper. The moisture in the excrement causes the fungi to essentially wake up. They start eating the plastic and the wood pulp. And then what is turned into like a soil inside of the landfill in an anaerobic environment. So what type of fungi are these that don't need oxygen in order to live?
Surprisingly, fungi don't need oxygen. Many fungi don't need oxygen. We looked at thousands of strains. We actually we've documented over 600 strains that can break down plastic. And one of the enzymes that get released from the fungi when it breaks down plastic, it's lactase. It's an enzyme called lactase. And it can be released both in aerobic and anaerobic settings. And we're and certain types of enzymes can be released under certain conditions. So lactase, let me take that back. I'm not positive that one is both anaerobic and aerobic, but I know that, of course, fungi have been able to exist in outer space. They can literally eat up, the poison of, like radiation. And so they can sort of thrive in pretty much any condition. And so even underground, obviously open air is more oxygen and it works better and faster, but no matter what, it is an exponentially better to have it than not have it, right? Instead of having it break down in 400 to 500 years, it'll break down in a fraction of that time. So we're going to biodegradable under 12 months as a claim, and that's instead of it being compostable. Diapers are not composted. No one composts diapers. And so the actual proper usage is in a landfill. Will it biodegrade in a landfill? And if it biodegrades 80%, it's considered landfill biodegradable.
And so it biodegrades into what, soil?
So fungi, basically, as you know, when they basically throw up the enzymes, they spore you, then they end up dying. And so when they die, they turn back into soil and mycelium. But then they sporulate. So our vision is that before these fungi, once it breaks down the diaper first, it'll start to break down other plastics around it, like its children, its offspring will sporulate and start to break down plastics around it in the landfill. Like that's the ultimate vision and dream.
Yeah. So I wonder, is there a pathway to utilizing this type of technology to divert them from the landfill in the first place, right? Like, is there a pathway to doing this where you could actually put diapers into industrial composters just in the way that, you can put certain types of, single-use forks and plates and all that into industrial composting facilities now?
But the thing is, again, you're not like the whole composting diapers thing is just like people aren't going to put it in their backyards. People aren't actually you're not allowed to put it in your municipal composter. So it has to be done by like a diaper company. So for example, this one diaper company they call themselves a bamboo diaper, but bamboo diapers are just viscose. It's like basically plastic. It's just a greenwash version of it, and they don't actually work well. But they have, as an example, a composting pickup program in one city. And so they're basically calling themselves compostable diaper, but it's not the practical global solution. It's just not. It ends up in a landfill or mismanaged or in a river or in an ocean, or like it's not going into a composting facility like 99.9999999% of these diapers. So that's just a total greenwash term that we don't support or subscribe to, because it's not what's going to actually solve the problem, right?
Yeah, interesting. All right. So you're talking about the problem that you're seeking to solve, Miki. And of course, I am aligned with you on that. Many listeners of this show will be as well. But as we all know, diapers are, one small part of the plastic problem. And so how do you see HIRO addressing this? Like, it's diapers first, or there are other products next? Is HIRO going to become a platform supplier of plastic-eating fungi to other brands beyond diapers? You're not going to replace Huggies, right? So is Huggies going to be buying the fungi from you?
Yeah. And so, 75% of the plastics that are found in diapers are literally like soft, like 75% of, the plastics found in diapers comprise of 75% of all soft plastics on the planet. And so if you can tackle diapers, you can actually tackle most soft plastics. And so we are starting with the hardest one yet is diapers. And then we're going to go to different layers. Like we got reached out to by a plastic pouch manufacturer. They make pouch manufacturers. So like, well, can we do like a little tab that after the baby's done or after the pouch is drank, they could just take this tab and stick it in the thing and then throw it in the trash. So there's like some kind of end of life for this. And it's like, we have a monopolymer of just PET, or a monopolymer for just, polypropylene, polyethylene. Like there's now these manufacturers making just single material products, which will be a lot easier for us to develop the proper fungi that'll break that down versus like a multiple like layered product like a diaper that has multiple layers that you have to figure out how to do all the different parts versus a
cool.
And so so yes, the answer is yes, we are going to go after menstrual pads, adult diapers, doggy wee-wee pads, trash bags, everything soft plastic, and licensing our technology, selling our technology to all plastic manufacturers for their end of life. There is no end of life solution for plastics, like zero, like on a large scale.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I have regularly lamented this about my own dog, because I use basically 2 plastic bags a day with him, right? And so, you're talking like over 700 bags per year.
And imagine you put a little fungi pouch in there, in the poop, in your dog's poop, in the bag, you throw in the trash. Right. It'll be great.
What I would prefer is a bag that came somehow like lined with the fungi, because I don't want to have to do that. Like, that's too disgusting to me. But yes. I would like to. I would like to do that. I would definitely do that. So that then raises the question about cost. So I presume this is more expensive than conventional diapers at this point. What is the price? People can buy these from you now. So what's the price for them to get a bundle of micro diapers?
Surprisingly, we are actually cheaper than the luxury diaper that everyone's buying right now. That's 50% more cost, bleach, whatever. Ours is $99 a month for our diapers, our wipes, and our fungi. All together, our mycelium, our little pouches, all of it together is $99 a month, which is like, is really like not expensive for compared to the luxury diapers that are just diapers are $99 a month. You add the wipes and then ours.
Wow. How many diapers does that get you?
On our website, it depends on if you're newborn. As you get older, the baby, you use fewer diapers per month. So it's like perfect. Yeah, it's perfectly sized. Like the number of diapers that comes throughout. And then we're eventually going to embed our technology directly into the diaper. And what's really exciting is that we ran our very first pilot run with our manufacturer to put our technology embedded in the core, in the deep, deep core, which will never, first of all, it's safer. Like I said, it's culinary grade, it's non-toxic, it's safer than the plastic of the diapers currently are. So we've embedded in the core of the diaper And we did it successfully. We were able to just mix it with one of the parts of the inner core material of the diaper. So there's not even a single piece of machinery or equipment needed to include our technology, embed our technology in the diaper manufacturing. So
that's cool.
That is going to be, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to stress, when you're talking about culinary grade, you're talking about culinary grade fungi, right? You're not
culinary grade fungi.
Yeah. Right, because when you said it earlier, for a second I thought culinary grade diaper, and I just thought, I know that's not what she means, but now I get what you're saying.
They're like non-toxic, they're safe, they're like so that parents and people can feel like, oh, this is like, he said it's like the probiotic for the diaper. So that's pretty cool. That's awesome, Miki.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I have been lamenting why there isn't a company like yours for some time. So I'm grateful that you're doing what you're doing. I would imagine that somebody who has had the number of entrepreneurial endeavors that you have probably thinks about lots of companies, especially if you're doing a whole day of just thinking. You're probably thinking some Fridays in your life about companies that you wish existed and that maybe you would do if you had the time. But obviously you're now making diapers, so you don't have the time to do that. What do you hope somebody else, maybe somebody listening to the show, will do? What should they do if they want to go out and try to make some good in the world?
Yeah. I mean, I always people always ask me like, I have like this energy inside of me. I'm going to start something, but I don't know what to put my energy towards. I'm always like, don't start another t-shirt company. I'm like, don't start another clothing brand. But I would say, look to the Millennial Development Goals. Like, what are the major global problems? Like, people don't realize it's like, you can solve a major world problem. For example, mosquitoes, right? Mosquitoes malaria was a huge problem. So this one entrepreneur in Africa started literally a mosquito bug net company. Now he's a billionaire, and he just solved this problem, this malaria problem, by being one of the first to really kind of distribute, malaria bug nets for beds. And so like, there's so many problems that the world has that you can literally go to the Millennial Development Goals and see like, what are all the major things? One of the things that I'm, consistently thinking about is, global warming. And so as a result, like one of the things that my dad is an inventor as well. And he and I were talking a lot about what would it be like if every single car or home had a way to like vacuum clean the CO2 from the air and basically split the carbon and the oxygen atoms, where the oxygen would go back into the air and the carbon would turn into gas to gas the car or gas the home or whatever, that there is some mechanism. That's a very hard thing to do, to break a carbon oxygen chain. But if there's enough sun energy, there's now like so much solar, there's enough surface area of energy that can potentially be able to do that on a large scale. And so like, that's as an example. Or I was tuning into, the energy and more like, besides hydrogen, solving the hydrogen thing, I was thinking like, how does one, like when you look at trees, you're like, wow, like I wonder how energy goes from the roots and nutrients all the way to the tippity top of the trees. Like they're 1,000 feet in the air. How does it get there without like some kind of a mechanism, right? And same thing in our own bodies. Like, how does the blood flow from our heart all the way to our toes and all the way back? And I read this book on the heart and our circulation sort of system.
What's the book called?
Really, as I was talking, I was like, fuck, it's been a while. But I'll send it, I'll let you know. But what the thesis of the book was that there's like, your veins are hydrophobic and the blood is hydrophilic, which means that there's a natural friction. Like there's a natural energy friction that happens when something is like repelling and it's like a positive and negative, right? It creates natural friction, right? When something's hydrophobic and something's hydrophilic, it creates momentum and friction. And so that's how trees do it. That's how the veins, it's basically hydrophobic tubes and hydrophilic fluid. So it's able to create the friction to bring the water up the trees. And same thing in our blood system as well. It's like, that's how it can, the heart's not strong enough all the way to get the very tips and bring it back, but it's the hydrophilic tubes. So I was like, what if we can take giant industrial size hydrophobic tubes and put them in hydrophilic like fluids and see if it'll create natural energy? And then energy is just free and it's just naturally made through the way trees and our bodies work. But no one's really done that before. So stuff like that, where I'm just tuning in, thinking about like, big, big problems
Yeah, cool.
that you can use our own nature inspired design. Like, how do you tune into nature, right?
Yeah, and I often think about this as you're talking about basically sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere. And of course, we have to get to a point where we aren't emitting so much CO2 and methane and so on. But even if we stopped all emissions today, we would still have to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. Like there's already too much, even if we stopped all emissions today. So somebody needs to get on this, right? And it's the same thing with plastic, right? Like even if we stopped making non-biodegradable plastic, there's so much plastic already on Earth.
Right.
As you pointed out, everyone listening, diapers that you wore decades ago are still sitting there, right? They're still sitting there in a diaper in the landfill. And, we need something to biodegrade all this plastic. Like we need some way to do it. And so I'm really bullish on these types of technologies that can either remove CO2 or remove plastic or other types of problems that we've created.
For sure. Yeah. And so this is the moment for us to all come together and tune into nature. And I think that's part of it. It's like the greatest technologist of our time is sitting outside of our windows, literally just taking in carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, all this stuff, and transforming it into oxygen for us to breathe. And we're disrespectfully chopping them down to wipe our asses with them. That's how out of tune we are with the nature in the natural world. And the ancient decomposers, fungi, have been doing this for a billion, like we just have to remember our interconnectedness with nature, and it's just all going to come back online. And so that's part of what I'm excited about doing with HIRO, is to like reconnect our mothers, reconnect our parents, reconnect people to the planet.
Amen. Amen. So, Miki, finally, you have offered some cool resources. I'd love to know what the book was. First, the children's book that you read that mentioned plastic eating fungi, but also any other resources that you have really enjoyed or benefited from. It could be relating to fungi or to HIRO or anything else during entrepreneurship that might benefit somebody else who really admires what you've accomplished in your life so far and wants to try to emulate some of what you've done.
Yeah. The book that I read that my son pointed to was called Pacha's Pajamas. And it's actually like it's like a 12-year-old, it's written for 12-year-olds, let's just say. It was given to me at a conference, and it just somehow miraculously ended up being in my bedroom nightstand. I don't even know how it got there, but that's how the miracle of the universe works. And I would say resources are just, again, like giving yourself enough spaciousness. I think people don't give themselves any space anymore because the answers, as corny and as platitudey as it sounds, are within. Like you actually have the answers. It's just people are so, again, disconnected and bogged down by this thing and that thing and this advertise and this Instagram and this email and this text and this person telling me and this, where you just have no connection to your center and then center touching the earth. And so how do you just recenter on a weekly basis? I've started to cut my meetings to mostly 15 minutes so that I have less meeting times. And they're just what are we talking about? Let's get through it. And then let's be efficient. And then let's tune back in. And I think the more attuned we are to ourselves, to each other, to the planet, the easier this will be. We've been at this for 4.5 years, nearly 5. And we're at this interesting inflection point going from R&D into commercialization, into really growth. And it's a new frontier moment again that we're in, that, as you know, it's like going from R&D to commercialization to actually now in market product is a whole new different ballgame. And we're educating everyday people on mycelium, fungi, diapers, how it goes together. People are like, fungi, diapers, is it safe? Yes, it's safer than the diaper. People are still testing mycelium and mushroom and the technical term is mycelium or fungi, but mushroom is softer. We're still playing, with what makes us feel good about it all.
Yeah. There is a bit of there can be, at least in our world, a bit of a tension sometimes between what feels good and what's also accurate. Like there was a company that got in some trouble because they were calling their mycelium, they were calling it mushroom root, which it was not. It wasn't a mushroom at all. And they,
but you can say mycelium, and so we're
yeah. Yeah, well, very cool, very, very cool, Mickey. I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, and I want to congratulate you not only on the success you've had, but also on starting this new company. And I hope a lot of people switch from conventional diapers to micro diapers. And
HIRO Diapers.
here, are they not called micro diapers? Were they ever called micro diapers?
HIRO Diapers, HIRODiapers.com. HIRO Diapers.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you for the correction. All right. So people can check that out. And of course, we'll link to that in the show notes for this episode at businessforgoodpodcast.com. And Mickey, thanks so much for all you're doing. And as a fellow fungi fanatic, I am rooting for you hard.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Thanks for listening. I hope you found it useful. And if you did, please let the world know. Leave the show a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app and share the episode with your friends. Who knows? Maybe you'll inspire one of them to be in the business of doing good themselves.